Why does it often happen that we can follow an explanation well up to a certain point and then, suddenly, we lose the thread because what we heard at the beginning of the exposition has slipped our minds? Why is it that when we study a text we often have to go back to the previous pages because we have forgotten what we read a few minutes earlier? Why do we easily get confused when we are given too many directions? And why does this happen even when we are focused and motivated? This happens because our ability to acquire a lot of information at a time has limits that are physical, biological, and seemingly insurmountable. Fortunately, however, our brain has an extraordinary capacity to exploit its own plasticity, and with an adaptive effort finds a way to circumvent these limitations imposed by nature. This is all tied to the concepts of chuck and chunking. Generally, the term chunk refers to a single unit of information, while chunking refers to the process of acquiring it. More precisely in the educational field, when we talk about chunking we are referring to both the process of breaking up the contents of the lesson which is used to facilitate learning by the students. That the aggregation of scattered information into complex units that include them and make them more manageable also for long-term memory purposes. Thanks to Miller's studies we know at least two things about human limitations in acquiring and memorizing information. That on the one hand we can only acquire 7 plus or minus 2 at a time. But that on the other hand we can integrate them into higher-level conceptual units and increase the amount of knowledge acquired, without exceeding the limit of 7 plus or minus 2. For example, if we read the number sequence 34500776614 and try to repeat it out loud after a few seconds pause, many of us will probably have difficulty remembering it in its entirety. But if we group the numerical sequence into separate units 34500776614, perhaps playing on the resulting sound effect, it will be easier to remember them precisely because we have integrated and reduced the number of information units, i.e. the chunks that we have to manage. There are many examples showing how we ritually use chunking to aggregate individual components into subordinate concepts. Let's think about the word hand. It may seem obvious, but we do not refer to this part of our body using the sequence of names that identify its components: thumb, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, little finger, palm, back. But we use a term, hand, which includes and integrates the names of its various organic components. This example can also be useful because it allows us to grasp the most intriguing aspect of the chunk subsumption, that is, the possibility of bringing a specific concept back into the context of a more general concept that includes it. As one can easily imagine, all of this has enormous implications on the educational training level because this ability of the brain to integrate simple information into superordinate units allows for the gathering together of masses of scattered details into overall configurations, and for the bidirectional management of knowledge from the particular to the general, and from the general to the particular. Let's see how chunking works with a history text. Let's try to summarize it by making the summary sentences concepts to which all the details of the portion of text from which they derive can be traced back. But let us now try to go one step further. Let us try to integrate the three syntheses into a single subsumptive logical proposition. As can be seen from the three colors, each component of the final sentence is nothing more than a synthesis of the summaries of the original text. So, to recap, what did we do? Following the logic of chunking, we integrated the various sentences with all the details into shorter propositions that nevertheless contain them on a conceptual level. But we didn't stop there. We ensured the possibility of going back from the general to the particular, from the synthesis to the detail, making all the logical steps visible.